Forget about the Luka Dončić trade, that was Max Christie's trade, and Luka and Anthony Davis were only added as filler. Since the trade, Christie has scored more points, rebounds, assists, steals, and three-pointers than Dončić and Davis combined. Over the 21, there has been more written and talked about in recent days than in his entire history. Time in LA, at least that's my impression. In these 154 games for the Lakers, Christie only scored at least 15 points 6 times. In his 6 games since his trade to the Mavericks, he achieved that 6 times as well, meaning in every single active usage. He averages 17.3 points per night, 5.2 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 0.2 steals, and 0.7 blocks in these 6 games. 2 of them even as a starter. All of this made Christie with a 122 offensive rating and 63% shooting. Outstanding stats, he is nearly unrecognizable compared to his time with the Lakers. I always found him mediocre there so far. In his first year in the league, 4 points in the season after, so practically last year. In theory, he was a 3-and-D player, but he wasn't really good. Good if he played in his first 2 years. And when he was on the court, it wasn't going well for Earl. This season before the trade, it got better and Reddit suddenly gave him 25 per night instead of 14. The volume stats skyrocketed. But even with the Lakers, it didn't look nearly as good as it is now in Dallas. The shots are falling better, he's allowed to handle the ball more. There's the crunch term on the court, the 21-year-old is literally on fire, and that's at least a small consolation for the Mavs fans. Because as we all know, they're really not having an easy time right now. First, their beloved franchise superstar is traded. Then the star gets injured, they got the value back, and then off the court it's a big shit show in Dallas. Continues to hide from the press and refuses to answer questions. The owners keep unnecessarily going against Luka. Fans are thrown out of the arena when they protest. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And despite all this new stuff, this insanely injury-plagued team has still managed lately to win 4 of their last 5, sometimes even against really good opponents impressively. In a way, and they have Max Christie to thank for that. I mean, nobody will ever say that the Luka trade was right for Dallas because Christie developed into such a good player, and similarly, Lakers fans won't demonize this trade one day because of that. But it would of course be really nice if Max Christie truly blossoms long-term in Texas and can find a home there. We need to start today with his boy creation, because I don't really know where they come from all of a sudden. In LA, that simply wasn't his job, that was done by LeBron, Reeves, Davis, and DLO before the trade. Neither Ham nor Roddick deployed the wing player in a creator role, completely understandable. But Jason Kidd hasn't really had a choice so far, simply because so many players are injured. We saw this twice in the summer league from Christie, that he created offense for himself and his teammates with the ball in a bigger role. But that's, of course, something completely different in the actual NBA now. We see it time and again, the best perimeter player being gradually introduced to this creator role with handoffs, as they can already move there beforehand to create an advantage. I like how Christie repeatedly physically attacks his opponent downhill, because they are vulnerable when they are already in motion. Here, his defender is already fully moving, Christie turns that into an advantage, and simultaneously executes the spin move. Always excited when I see this combination of change in direction and speed during the drive. Players who can do that well always come to easy points at the rim. We see this stopping up repeatedly so far. Originally the plan was to let the defenders breeze past, but Max feels the contact and sees Ant. And here he also completely stops midway, just to then kick it out to his free pick-and-pop teammate. The Mavericks have already run several Chicago actions specifically for him, and then it comes down to decision-making. Is the zone full and no passing option free? Then I'll go for the step back. If the defense shrinks and one of my teammates is left alone, then I'll make the extra pass. Christie is allowed more and more, even sometimes to run the cluster between pick and roll, and you can literally watch the learning process as the Rockets help him and he becomes more comfortable. Here he goes over the double drag, so instead of one he sets 2 screens and then it rattles in the basket. Who is free? Am I free? Maybe go off, do it myself, or pass, shoot, or drive. As you can see, it's not yet an automatic and lightning-fast process, but the man is making more and more correct decisions. And he lets the window, sees here that everyone thinks he would go over right, but simultaneously sees all the free space in the zone, so he changes direction and drives effortlessly to the basket. Game against the Heat, in which he posted 19 points, he suddenly started to cook his opponents with isolation, turn step-back jumpers straight in their face. Tough runners after Euro steps over them and softly into the basket. Fadeaway jump shots from the drive after spin moves. And if they defend him too tightly, he goes past them and looks directly for the finish at the basket. I'm really curious to see how this continues this season and of course beyond. because his ceiling is in my eyes significantly influenced by this onboard creation. The Mavericks will eventually have more players available again. Let's see how that will affect his role. But the first approaches here are really promising. What I like almost even more so far are these 3 skills in the arsenal. This type of player, we called it a while ago on our Double Step Back podcast. Not just 3 in D, but 3 offensive skills in D. Shooting, attacking closets, and making the extra pass in man-oh-man. Christie excels in all these areas so far. That goes with 46% of his 3-pointers find their way into the basket with the Mavericks so far. Astronomically high percentage, which he obviously won't maintain for long. But for his career it's 38%, and that's still an outstanding average. So far, these are predominantly spot-up 3-pointers, but not exclusively. Here he sets a so-called ghost screen and rotates directly to the 3-point line to sink the movement shot. He doesn't have to be completely free. Thanks to his size, he can shoot over many opponents. And the man is Klay Clayton. Thompson recently said about him that Christie has the clutch gene and he must know it. Christie doesn't have the most exclusive. It's not like he attacks a closer and then a mantis. With Thompson's style, he can't be far and wide over all mountains. He understands very well when he should shoot and when to attack the closer. And then you have to know to help yourself. If you're not the most explosive athlete, you need a plan B, which means contact. Play creatively and create an advantage for yourself, for example. Or just have an answer ready when you can't drive to the basket due to the article's closeout. The process is there. Sometimes it still takes a little too long to make the decision. But come on, the guy is 21 and is just learning all this now. But these attacked closeouts in combination with extra passes are pretty cool so far. You also call this extending readiness. Advantages, and he really understands it. He repeatedly drives to the basket and then makes the extra pass. Kicks it out to a shooter again or passes the ball to a player at the basket seats, thus extending the advantage so that an even better positioned colleague can ultimately capitalize on it. I just call that super intelligent and real basketball play. Here, the dump-off pass into the zone isn't worthwhile because the colleague at the basket is currently covered, so Christie goes out to the weak side shooter. And this is a ridiculous pass past Thompson's long arm onto a sheet. And if you play like this, you get minutes in the NBA, the coaches love it, the teammates and fans love it, it's winning basketball. Christie would also have done well on Luka's side here. Sure, he could shoot himself, but one of his teammates is still even freer, so he makes the right decision. Especially since he's a good cutter as well. After the off-ball screen, check out his footwork. And a really great transition player who likes to push the pace repeatedly. And so far, this was only the offensive side of the package, 3 skills in D and the D for defense. Look how he acts as a point of attack defender here, moves his feet, holds his opponent in front of him, that's really something. Or here as a team defender, reacts lightning fast, helps and protects the basket. Or after his own turnover, he rebounds and makes the chase down block. Former teammate LeBron James would be proud. Christie is a great defender who will fit well into the Mavs' goal to get through defense. A small consolation among you fans, you have received a 21-year-old with plenty of potential. Do you like my videos? Then feel free to leave a like and subscribe.